Chevrolet will end production of the Camaro next year. How does that affect their NASCAR program? And it's a triple header weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Let's talk about some surprise favorites. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Happy Friday. In case you missed it, yesterday I released the second episode of Out of the Groove Power Hour, my new podcast featuring NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Brennan Poole.
I remember my crew chief telling me, listen, they're just don't say anything when you're in there. But I remember Wayne asked me, what do you... Yeah, well, just be quiet, let them yell at you, and then they'll get it all out, and then we can leave. And I was like, okay. So I went in there, but then Wayne asked me a question directly to me that needed an answer. And he was like, what do you think I should do? So then I told him what I thought he should do, and then he told me that I shouldn't tell him what he should be doing. And and it was large, he yelled at me big time. And I'm like, okay, whoops. I guess
that's funny.
I guess I shouldn't have said anything and should have just.
It was a trick question.
Quietly enough, it was a trick question, and you got me good.
We talked to Carson Hocevar, rising star in the Craftsman Truck Series. He talks about some Xfinity deals that almost happened. Testing at North Wilkesboro gives great insight into that racetrack. And then Brennan and I answer many of your burning questions. So if you missed it, be sure to check out the second episode of Power Hour. It's available on all major podcast platforms or as a YouTube video. I will put the link down in the description below. Before we get to all the COTA related news, let's talk Chevrolet. Chevy confirmed this week that they will end production of the current generation Camaro in 2024. Chevy did not specifically mention what would be coming next, but did say that this isn't the end of the Camaro's story. Jim Campbell, who's the head of all things motorsports at Chevy, assured fans that Chevrolet will, quote, continue to compete and win at the highest levels of auto racing. So I don't think we need to worry about Chevrolet, pulling out of NASCAR or any of the other many motorsport series across the world that they are currently heavily involved in. But will the Camaro stay? There was some confusion I saw on Twitter this week about what NASCAR allows. If the car is not currently in production, does NASCAR allow manufacturers to run that car on the racetrack? Bob Pockers from Fox Sports, I think, cleared some things up with this tweet yesterday. After checking with NASCAR on interpretation of rules, because the Camaro was a production vehicle at the time of its original submission, it remains qualified to race in Cup and Xfinity even beyond 2024 if Chevrolet chooses to do so. Interesting. So we may see what some fans have called zombie cars. There may not be any Camaro ZL1s in production in 2025, 2026, but they may still race in NASCAR. And I keep putting the quotes because it's really just the body style and the engine. Chevy makes their own engine, but really the distinction between the Chevrolet Camaro, the Ford Mustang, the Toyota Camry is the body style, specifically that front nose. I'm curious to see what Chevy will do. First, with the Camaro, will they do what Ford has kind of done with the Mustang and create an EV version that looks nothing like the original? Will they continue to make Camaros? Will they brand something else a Camaro? I don't know, but on the racetrack, will they continue to run Camaro ZL1s past 2024? My guess is, at least in the short term, yes. Remember when Chevy switched from the SS to the Camaro? That was the start of 2018, and that season, Chevrolet kind of struggled. Took Chevy a while to get their footing underneath them once again. Now, part of that was they had veteran drivers like Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Gordon had retired, and the young guys like Chase Elliott, William Byron was a rookie in 2018, Alex Bowman had joined Hendrick. Some of it was younger, lesser experienced drivers trying to find their footing, but part of it was, I think, the new Camaro. The body style, whatever it was, Chevy was a little off their game when the Camaro was first introduced. Now, and really since 2020, Chevy Camaros have probably been the fastest car in the NASCAR Cup Series more times than not. The Camaro has found its groove in recent years, and as long as Chevy continues to have success year after year, I don't see them making any major changes. Outside of NASCAR rules that change year to year, like this year, each manufacturer had to submit a new nose design. Besides that, I think Chevy's going to try and stick with what isn't broken as long as they possibly can, unless they do introduce a new street consumer vehicle that they believe would be represented well on a NASCAR racetrack. Unless that happens, which it could. I'm not really tuned into the car world, the rumors, the rumblings. I don't know. Maybe that is on the horizon. But if it's not, I see them sticking with the Camaro for a while. Let's talk about Circuit of the Americas. As of the time I'm recording and editing this video, Cup Series practice is going on. We'll be curious to see who tops the speed charts for sure. We already have some exciting news this week. Chase Elliott will join the Fox broadcast booth remotely on Sunday. Elliott, of course, is still recovering from injury, but it'll be neat to hear him chime in on the Fox broadcast. I'm a little worried about how it's going to work remotely. Like, is it going to be staticky Zoom call quality, or will they actually get him a nice headset and mic and connection? Whatever they do, I hope it really adds to the broadcast. I'm never really a fan of like in-game interviews. Like baseball does this, especially during like all-star games or spring training games. They love to interview players from the dugout or managers from the dugout during the inning, and sometimes they're entertaining. A lot of times the player is more focused on the game and it's not really an insightful conversation. So I hope whatever they do with Chase Elliott, it actually adds to the broadcast. I'll be there in person, so I won't see it live. I'll have to go back and watch it later, but I'm relying on you to let me know in the comments Sunday night whether Chase Elliott's addition helped or hurt the Fox broadcast booth. Either way, it's great to see and hear Chase Elliott, around NASCAR once again. Hopefully he's back and healthy behind the wheel here in the next few weeks. Some other wacky news: NASCAR's COTA weekend has already gotten off to a bang, or a splat. Today, Ross Chastain dropped a watermelon from the top of COTA's observation tower. Take a look. That's just disintegrated. I also love in this video, he's got several watermelons up there. So like they've got targets set up. I don't know, did he was this target practice? Was he trying to hit each one? I don't know. Fun, cool, random, viral type promo to commemorate Ross Chastain's first career win, which came at COTA last year. No harm done, except to the watermelons, I guess. I like it. Let's talk about Circuit of the Americas for a moment, because this is a marquee weekend this year. I've been saying it for a couple weeks. The Daytona 500 is the biggest race of the season every year. This season, I think the Chicago Street Race in July is highly anticipated. It's so unique. It's very new to a NASCAR audience. So I got to put Chicago Street in that. Like, if Daytona is top tier, S tier, I'm going to put Chicago Street in A tier. But then that B tier, I think that's where you have to put, the crown jewels like the Coca-Cola 600. I think that's where you put the Southern 500, in my opinion. The Brickyard 400 is no longer on the schedule, but I think you got to put COTA this weekend, this race at Circuit of the Americas, in that same tier alongside the Coke 600 and the Southern 500. It's not a traditional crown jewel, but the anticipation this year leading up to this event is on par, if not slightly above, those races. This weekend marks the return of the highly competitive road course ringer. This weekend is showcasing one of NASCAR's greatest appeals: its versatility. No other major motorsport series in the world has quite the same schedule NASCAR has. Super speedway ovals for pack racing, intermediates, triangles like Pocono, short tracks like Bristol, Martinsville, stadium racing, they clash at the Coliseum, road courses, a street course now, a dirt race. No other motorsport series on planet Earth has as diverse of a schedule, as versatile of a schedule as NASCAR, the NASCAR Cup Series has this year, and it's something NASCAR should be proud of, because look at the stars from across the industry that have converged on NASCAR this week and in the coming weeks to participate. And I think are going to bring with them some new eyeballs that otherwise wouldn't tune into NASCAR typically. This weekend is a big one. Obviously, two former F1 champions, Kimi Räikkönen making his second Cup Series start, Jenson Button making his first of 3 Cup Series starts this year. You've got Jordan Taylor, IMSA champion, Rolex champion. He's the Garage 56 reserve driver. He's driving for Hendrick Motorsports. I believe he's a legitimate contender to win this weekend. Connor Daly with the money team. He's an Indiana kid, IndyCar background. And Jimmy Johnson, 7-time NASCAR champ, the greatest driver of his generation, maybe of any generation in stock car racing history. He's back this weekend. He just can't stay away. I just remember a couple of years ago when the high downforce, low horsepower, 550 horsepower package was being run at every intermediate track and was even potentially going to be run at many short tracks and road courses. And it was a point of conversation. This style of racing, that car, was going to turn drivers away. Cup Series drivers were going to retire sooner and sooner, and international stars would not be interested in coming over to compete under those conditions. But now with the next gen, handles more like a sports car. The look, the feel, whatever it is, way more appealing now to international race car drivers, world champion, world-class race car drivers. Bristol Dirt coming up in a couple weeks. Jonathan Davenport, Superman, he's getting a NASCAR opportunity that he otherwise never thought he'd get, and is going to bring with him, I think, a ton of support and a ton of eyeballs from the dirt racing world. Jenson Button, I just mentioned, is going to run this weekend at COTA. He's already committed to run the Chicago street race. So is Jimmy Johnson. So while the current product NASCAR is putting on track may not always be appealing to the fans, it's had some really big hits the first couple years, but it's also had some huge misses, no doubt. I find it encouraging that so many world-class race car drivers want to drive these cars, they want to compete in these events, and bring with them their fans and their supporters. I think that's good for NASCAR. I think it's great for events like Circuit of the Americas, the Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix. Like, yeah, this is only year 3, it's still kind of new and fresh, but the first 2 years of COTA, they've been fine, all right. I mean, the first year was really wet and a little sloppy. This race has become a marquee race this year because of the drivers, the stars who want to race in it. The road course ringer returns this weekend, and they're not just here to take a 35th place car and run 25th. No, Jordan Taylor and a Hendrick car could absolutely win this race. Kimi Räikkönen with Trackhouse, I mean, he was in the top 10 at Watkins Glen last year. He's got a little more practice time. He's more familiar with this race course because he's won here in an F1 car. Kimi is absolutely a threat to finish in the top 5 or top 10. Jenson Button, I don't know how much testing he's done in Garage 56, but I think it's safe to say he's driven the next gen car a decent amount. I think he could be a threat considering he has SHR support. These drivers are not here to just ride around. They are here to run up front. And I think that's great for NASCAR. I think it's great for this event, and I think it's great for motorsports and motorsports fans by and large. I haven't even talked about AJ Allmendinger, who's a NASCAR regular, but we know how strong he is at these style of races. Like, to win Circuit of the Americas this weekend, you have to be elite. Like, this race isn't the Daytona 500. Maybe not quite Chicago, but it's in that same conversation with the Coke 600. It's probably ahead of the Southern 500 this year, in my opinion. This is a marquee event. I'm excited for it, if you couldn't tell. I want to know who you're picking to win. If you paid attention to my shorts that I posted, the fast forecast, I'm still going with the NASCAR regular. I think Ross Chastain is the safest pick to win, to repeat, if you will. But if you're into betting, take a good long look at those odds, because some drivers like Jordan Taylor, I don't know. I'd see what kind of offers you can find. That'll do it for this episode of Out of the Groove. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed, please leave this video a like. If you're new to the channel and you love all things NASCAR, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. I'm not doing any official appearances or meetups this weekend, but if you see me at the racetrack, feel free to come say hi. Love to talk a little racing. Hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. See you out there at Austin, Texas in just a couple days.